feels a little bit daunting. Like, well, okay, some people, when they hear my message, they kind of say, okay, well, is it an all or nothing approach? I need my cell phone. I need my computer. Well, I'm in a computer on a computer right now. I'm recording this from Thailand.
Mhm.
I have a cable that I brought. Yes, these still exist. An Ethernet cable that runs from the computer to the router, and that's one way to connect to the internet more safely is to use wired solutions, and that's still possible, especially if you're at home, if you're not actively moving, you have a home office, for example. Most people that I know of that really well that haven't looked at my work too much and I guess haven't taken too much action, they usually use Wi-Fi, because this is 99 point something percent of people still use Wi-Fi on the computer, even if the computer is not moving, even if it's a desktop computer. So instead, you can use wired technologies, and it's still possible to do this and to turn off the Wi-Fi on your computer. And why would you do that? Well, on a computer, I am exposed about 1 foot from the screen. So my exposure times how many hours in a week might be 40 hours a week. I'm an author. I'm in front of a computer. That's my life at the moment. And it will probably be for the next decade. So if I turn off the Wi-Fi on that computer, it means that my overall cumulative exposure of the week is going way down. So for me, the computer use is very important. For other people, it might be how much they use their phones. If in your profession you have to talk on the phone, then talking like this on the ear is a lot of exposure because you're very close to the source. The closer you are to the source, the more intense the radiation to your body. If you hold the phone in your hand at 1 to 2 feet from your head and you have wired solutions like earbuds or headphones, or even just use speakerphone if you're alone and you can do it, then you're cutting down your exposure by at least 80%, if not 90%. So right there, if you just change that, you ignore the rest, you don't even take care of your computer, just your cell phone use creating distance is very important. And I have to talk about the bedroom, because obviously if these can be detrimental to your sleep, we need to talk about safe EMF hygiene practices. And the idea is to not have it within a arm's length, not have any gadget within an arm's length of your pillow. So I know some people, and a lot of people, fall to sleep with their phone. Maybe they look at things on the internet before. Even some people use meditation apps, and these are great, but please try to find an app where it can still work offline. And many of them exist where you can pre-download tracks and you put it on airplane mode, your phone that is, and it still works. And that way, it's safer that you have the airplane mode button on, and also the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi icons are crossed off. And it means that these antennas will not be emitting EMF radiation during your sleep. So if you can only do that, for some people, this is enough to see benefits. And this is surprising because, of course, you're also exposed by external sources such as the neighbor's Wi-Fi and the cell towers. But these are not necessarily priorities at first. And that's important for everyone to understand, is that the closest devices to your body, the more exposure it will contribute towards your overall exposure. We're trying to cut that down. So focusing on the gadgets that you do have control over is a way better strategy than looking outside, seeing cell phone towers and saying, oh my God, these are scary, right? You cannot directly control the cell tower. You can get outside the city, and you should, when you can, for vacation time, spend time in nature, off the grid, disconnected, leave the phone at home if you can, right? So if only for the psychological benefits of cutting down on screen exposure. Some people feel so good after a few days. They feel liberated. Oh, I will not come back on social media. Like we all say that after a few days, and maybe we come back a little bit, but it just brings you back to yourself and to a better place with technology. So there's benefits to that. But when it comes to, if you live in a city and you're exposed to gadgets, these are really the number one you should take care of first. And I'll also mention an extra action step because it's so easy. It is almost stupid. You can just disconnect, turn off your Wi-Fi router at night. And most people don't think about doing this. And sometimes they say, well, Nick, will it really make a difference if I disconnect my router because the neighbors don't do it? And you know what? it is true that it will make a difference, because your router is often the one that is closer to your body compared to your neighbors. In many situations, that's true, especially if you have a home and your neighbor is 1 kilometer away. But even in a city, it is still valid. And some people report better sleep even if they only turn off their own router and don't necessarily go ask their neighbor to do so, which is still a very bizarre thing to ask for in the 2020s, because people are not aware. But maybe you can still send them to this interview and educate them on the matter, but please be gentle, because of course, if you go to their door and say, oh, turn off your router, some people don't react good to that. Even within your family, I have to recognize that turning off the router at night might sound threatening to their internet. Well, how are we going to connect to the internet? Worst case scenario, you plug it back, it takes a minute, it comes back on. But maybe run it as a fun experiment. Like, I've heard that if you turn off the Wi-Fi at night, well, you do save that energy anyway because it's not plugged into the wall. And also, we might sleep better. And do an experiment for a week. And many people report better sleep. If they report better sleep and they experience it for themselves, it makes it more true for them. So this is something to do with the skeptical people in your household. And it's important that you introduce this not as something where there's all this bad radiation. Like the negative approach is dangerous sometimes, because we find that it kind of triggers the tech savvy and tech hungry teenagers or husband or wife in your household. So be gentle with it and maybe go with the benefits instead. Like, I've heard that if you cut down on EMF exposure, you feel better, more energy. It can help with sleep, rather than this is a class 2B carcinogen. Nick told me it's dangerous, and we need to remove that stuff because it's super dangerous. Some people will not react the right way to